Number 4, Soul Calibur. Oh man, Soul Calibur is a classic. This was the original one that came out in the late 90s for the Sega Dreamcast. Really one of the best fighting games ever made, period. Amazing gameplay, amazing multiplayer, great looking visuals, great looking graphics, great music. This was really an epic fighting game to the core. It really was. Back then it was, people said it was the greatest fighting game ever, made, and I think it got like a perfect, one of the, I think it was IGN, they gave this game like a perfect, 10 out of 10 or something, but still one of the greatest fighting games to come out. It's still the king of Soul Calibur franchise, still the king. It can't be beat. I mean, Soul Calibur 2, Soul Calibur 3, Soul Calibur 4, this game is still the highest standard of Soul Calibur. I mean, you really can't go wrong with this original title. Later Soul Calibur games have been kind of just rehashed versions of what Soul Calibur really was. Soul Calibur, classic, and one of the best games to have come out for the Sega Dreamcast and the late 90s period. Number 3, now we're getting to the really kick-ass fighting games. Tekken Tag Tournament. Oh my god, this is arguably the greatest Tekken game of all time, and not only that, one of the greatest fighting games, period. It perfected Tekken games in general. I mean, you had Tekken 3, which had a lot of different characters. Really, Tekken Tag Tournament was a Tekken 3.5. It had more beautiful graphics. It had more great-looking models, character models. It had more, sharper-looking models, more smoother-looking character texture. But it essentially was Tekken 3 because it's basically the same characters, the same kind of similar level stages, just slightly different music and variations in the music. But Tekken Tag Tournament was, its main strength was really the gameplay. Now, it's the only Tekken game to have a tag function, and this is probably the best tag function in any fighting game you can think of. You name it, King of Fighters, the Marvel vs. Capcom, the Tekken Tag Tournament perfected the tag function, because I love how you can you can switch anytime you want with your character. You can perform combos as you're coming in, and at the same time it just feels so freaking smooth. What a smooth playing game. I mean, the controls are on point. It's very fast paced. It's the fastest Tekken game to come out back then. And it's arguably still the greatest Tekken fighting game because not only do you have amazing gameplay, amazing multiplayer, great graphics, the sound, I really have a problem with the sound. That's probably the biggest part that that pisses me off about the game. That's the only negative thing I can think of. The sound could have been much more significant. I think Tekken 5 had way better music. It also had Tekken Bowling. Now, Tekken Bowling was really just a side game. It's one of those like party style games where you're basically playing this bowling thing and you're trying to knock bowling pins over. It has really nothing to do with the Tekken fighting one-on-one experience, except you play as you bowl as Tekken characters, which is a nice, awesome side game. I mean, it really is a fun, it's a side distraction, but it's really fun. Now, number 2, the second most amazing fighting game of all time, second greatest, Mortal Kombat 2. Do I even have to explain this one? Mortal Kombat 2, the Mortal Kombat franchise by Midway. Really, this was what set Midway apart. It was way better than its predecessor, which was the original Mortal Kombat. It had better graphics, more gore, more violence, better fatalities, more characters, a better kind of control layout. It actually felt better to play the game. The gameplay was a bit more smooth than the original. Overall, just a superior game, and it really competed with one of the best fighting games ever made. And Mortal Kombat 2 is still the greatest fighting game that Midway ever put out, and to this day it remains, one of the most influential and one of the most violent, brutal, video games of all time. What else can you say? Alright, and number 1, the greatest fighting game of all time, number 1, Street Fighter 2, period. Street Fighter 2, period. I don't even have to explain anything. Play Street Fighter 2, You know, I mean, this is what started it all, okay? And, you know, you can analyze this as much as you want, but the most influential fighting game of all time, one of the best games, period, one of the most important franchises in history, Street Fighter 2. Without Street Fighter 2, you wouldn't have any of the other fighting games I mentioned in this list. So it's all about Street Fighter 2. So how will Tekken 6, you know, compare with the top 10? I don't know. It's gonna have a tough time, not only, you know, knocking any of these games off the list, but just the Tekken games in general. You know, you got Dark Resurrection, Tag Tournament, you know what I mean? It's got a lot to live up to, but who knows?